Welcome, everybody. If you've been here for a little while watching me text, I was talking to the behind the scenes tech people and working out a few details, but we're live now. So, very happy to be here with all of you. My name is Mimi, and if this is your first time tuning into a Thunder Mist yoga class. A special welcome to you. And these classes have been running for free every second and fourth Wednesday of the month and are really geared to be accessible to people in a whole range of yoga practice. So whether you're a beginner or whether you've been doing something yoga for a while, hopefully you'll get a lot out of the practice tonight. And you really don't need much of anything in terms of equipment or props. If you have a yoga mat, that's great. If you don't have a yoga mat, you could do it on a carpet or a towel. And it might be useful if you have what's called yoga blocks like these. You could go ahead and grab them. And if you don't have these fancy yoga blocks, books work just as well. Even firm pillows or just something. So sometimes you might want to lift your hips up by sitting on something. And sometimes when we're bowing forward, you might want to put your hands on something so that you don't have to have your hands hanging or worry about touching the floor. So you can give folks a moment to go ahead and gather something up to help yourself. You also might want to grab a pillow or a glass of water, and then we'll begin. So we'll start by coming down onto our backs. And as you come onto your back, you might want to have your knees bent. Or some of you might feel okay extending your legs long. So just go ahead and feel what's going on in your lower back and let that be what guides your decision to have legs straight or bent. And so generally having knees bent provides a little bit more stability and support to the lower back. So if your back is generally cranky or maybe just cranky tonight, bent knees are probably the way to go. And then if it's comfortable for you, go ahead and close your eyes and direct your attention and your focus inward. And if you're not comfortable closing your eyes, you could just have them softly open. Maybe a soft focus looking at the ceiling, or really not letting your eyes kind of latch on to anything in particular. And then go ahead and decide how you want your arms. So you might have them down by your sides with the palms face up in a kind of classical yoga shape. Although palm down is fine, or you might bring your hands to your belly. And then let's all just take a couple of big breaths in together with a big exhale to let it out. And as we let it out, hopefully letting go of whatever kind of tension or frustration or just busyness that you've got lodged into your nervous system from your day. So go ahead and take a big inhale through the nose. And once you've filled, go ahead and pause there for a moment. And then open your mouth and exhale and let it out with a sigh. And then let's do that again. So you're going to go ahead and inhale. And draw a big breath in through the nose, filling, 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 and then eventually pausing when you feel full. And then exhale, open your mouth, let it out with a big sigh. And then do it again. Inhaling, filling, 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 and pause. And exhale, sigh, let it go. Good. And then we're just going to reach our arms to the floor behind us and stretch our legs long. And as you do that, maybe you open your mouth and let out a yawn. Maybe you stick out your tongue. Maybe you make funny faces or wiggle about, stretching through your fingers, through your toes, just taking up lots of space. And then go ahead and gather your knees in at your belly. And as you hug your knees in towards your belly, maybe you begin to rock a little bit, side to side. And as you do that, see if you can feel sensation in the lower back, in the back of the sacrum, or towards the tailbone. Might feel good to take your hands right to the fronts of your kneecaps and kind of swirl your legs around, steering them with your hands. Then you can reverse it and go in the other direction if you've been doing circles. Good. And then go ahead and lower your feet to the floor. And you can have your knees bent and pick up your right foot and squeeze your knee in towards your belly. And as you do that, you can go ahead and circle your ankle. My cat's made a guest appearance. She's very loud. And you can point and flex your foot, then wiggle your toes. Good. And then take hold behind your thigh. You might interlace your fingers there. And you're just going to straighten your leg towards the ceiling. And then bend your knee again. And straighten your leg towards the ceiling. And then bend your knee again. And if it feels like too much to do this while you're holding on to the back of your thigh, you could always let your arms go down by your side and continue to bend and straighten your leg, just like I'm doing. Good. And then the next time you squeeze your knee in towards your belly, you're going to switch your hands to the front of your shin. And while your left knee is bent still, just going to scoot your hips over to the right some. And then straighten out your left leg. And we're going to come into a twist. So just take your left hand across and extend your right arm wide. And roll over to the left. And take a few more breaths here. Try to let that right arm be heavy, twisting the chest and the torso in the opposite direction of your knee. And then as you come back out of the twist, let's go ahead and roll to your back and extend your right leg. And take a couple moments to pause. So the way that I teach, I like to weave in these moments of stillness, moments where we pause, sometimes in between sides, to just really feel what's happening in the body. Feel the effects of our practice. All right, and then go ahead and squeeze your knees in towards your belly again. You can rock back and forth. And then take both hands to your left knee and lower your right foot down. And just begin to circle your ankle and point and flex. And then go ahead and you'll either interlace your fingers behind your thigh or release your arms by your side. And you're gonna just bend and straighten your leg a few times. Reaching that foot up towards the ceiling and then bend again. And do it a few more times. And Kat's acting like she's starving for attention, circling my mat. And then go ahead and bend your knee, and you can take your hands to the front of your shin or your knee. And while that right knee is bent, maybe just push into that foot and kind of jog your hips or wiggle your hips over to the left. And then straighten your right leg. You're going to take your right hand to the outside of your knee, and your left arm comes out to the side, and you're going to come into a twist. So taking that left knee across the body. Take some time here. Another few breaths. Good. And then roll out of it and stretch both legs long. And once again, reach your arms to the floor behind you. And take a big stretch and a big yawn. Maybe open your mouth. Let out a sigh. And then we'll bend both knees and bring them to the floor. Good. Now have your arms by your side. We're just going to do a little bit of movement, freeing up the lower back, a place that gives a lot of folks, some trouble. So arms down by your side. You're going to tune into your lower back, and you might notice that there's a little bit of a gap between your lower back and the floor. So what I want you to do is engage your lower abdominals and press your lower back towards the floor. So you might feel your tailbone kind of tuck or curl under or up towards the ceiling is the direction it'll go when you're on your back. And then you're going to do the opposite. You're going to roll your pelvis forward by softening the abdominal muscles and find length across the belly. And then you're going to do the opposite. You're going to cinch up your lower abdominals and you're going to rock your pelvis back and try to smush your lower back to the floor. And then go ahead in the other direction. So tilt your pelvis forward and soften your abdominal muscles and get extra curvature in the lower back. And then go back and forth like that a few times. So tipping back and then rolling forward. And tipping back. And then rolling forward. And then take a moment and pause and just feel your back in a neutral position. All right, so we're going to add another layer to that, building up strength in the back of the body. So you're going to go ahead. First, we'll start tipping the pelvis forward. So you get that extra curve in the lower back. And then you're going to exhale and squish your lower back to the floor, trying to keep that engagement of the core. Press into your feet and lift your pelvis and your belly towards the ceiling. And then go ahead and roll down. Pause for a moment. And then we'll begin the cycle again. So you're going to tilt your pelvis forward and get that curvature in the lower back. And then roll your pelvis backwards, seal it to the floor, engage your core, press into your feet, and lift your belly up towards the ceiling. And then lower down. Pause for a moment. We'll do it one more time. You're going to tilt your pelvis forward, get that curvature in the lower spine. And then tilt your pelvis back, squeeze your lower back to the floor, strong in the core, press in your feet, and lift towards the ceiling. And then lower down and just let your back rest. All right, so let's go ahead and roll to our side. And we're going to find our way into a tabletop pose. So you're going to bring your hands underneath your shoulders and your knees will be about hips width distance apart. And we're just going to come into some cat-cows. So you'll tilt your pelvis forward and you'll open up the front of the body, so the sternum and the heart and the chest. And then you'll exhale and you'll round and you'll open up the back body. And then inhale, tilt your pelvis forward, roll your shoulders back, open up. And exhale and round. And go back and forth like that. Opening front body and opening back body. And you might do this with your eyes open or your eyes closed, whatever feels right. And then we're going to come to neutral. And you're going to bring your big toes together and your knees apart. And you're going to sit your hips back. And we're going to come into a child's pose. So as you come into child's pose, maybe your arms are stretched way out in front of you. Or maybe you fold your arms and the back of your hands, your forearms becomes a cradle for your head. And so wherever you're at, listen to your body and make whatever adjustments in the position you're in that will bring your body into a state of ease. And then find your way back to your tabletop. All right. And then go ahead and we're going to send our right leg back. So you're just going to float it in the air. Try to straighten out that leg and push your foot behind you, like it's pushing into a wall. And then steady in the right hands, you might let your left arm float up. Hold here. Few breaths. Good. And then lower your left hand down. And with your right leg extended, bring the ball of your foot to the floor. And once the ball of your foot comes to the floor, go ahead and push through your heel. So that you feel sensation gather into the back of the leg. And you might hold steady or you might pulse a little bit. And then keep that leg extended, but you're going to let off on that pushing motion. And you're going to take your leg and you're going to hop it out to the side. And then take a peek and line up your foot more or less with your left knee. And then you're going to go ahead and sweep that right arm up. And once you've swept that arm up, go ahead and circle your wrist. And as you circle your wrist, maybe you take some time and you open and close. And then eventually bring your hand to your hip and press into your left hand and twist open a little bit more. Maybe your gaze begins to take a peek over that shoulder. If that's too tense on the neck, you could look down at your hand or really wherever it feels comfortable for your neck. So at every point in your practice, it might be good to just ask yourself if you're feeling comfortable. Ask yourself if there's anything that you could do, any adjustment that you could make that'll bring you more comfort and ease. So you don't want to be struggling in these poses. You might be struggling because they're new or struggling because your muscles are quivering, but you don't want to feel pain in them. And then go ahead and bring your hand down to the floor. And you're just going to gather yourself up. And you're going to bring that knee in. So I'm going to turn to face you because it'll be a little bit clearer, I think, what we're doing. So you're going to take your arms out into a T. And then go ahead and cross your right arm over your left. And tip your elbows up as you lean back. And then you're going to curl forward. So if you can sit your hips back towards your heels, go ahead and do that, bringing elbows towards your thighs. Or you might stay a lot more upright and just kind of curl and dip in a little bit. But you're going to go back and forth like that. So you're going to tip your elbows up towards the ceiling. And then you're going to tip them down, and it might just be a little, or maybe you're sitting all the way back and trying to tap your elbows towards your thighs. And do it a few more times, just rising up and down or curling and straightening. And then the next time you curl down, bring your hands down. Find your tabletop. You're going to walk your hands forward of your shoulders. Tuck your toes under. And we're going to lift up and back to a downward facing dog. So the knees begin to lift up off the floor. And then adjust your feet. You can spread your palms really wide. Knees can be bent, feet can be wide apart. Let's take a little time here. Good, and then tap your knees to the floor. And we're going to find a second child's pose. So you're going to bring your big toes together. Knees are going to go wide, hips are going to sit back, and you'll either stretch your arms long or fold them in and let the backs of your palms, backs of your forearms serve as a pillow for your hands. We'll just take a few breaths. And another. And then find your way to a tabletop again. So coming into a tabletop. And stretch your left leg back behind you. Go ahead and have it float. Good. And then reach your right arm forward. Holding here. And then lower your hand down and bring the ball of your foot to the floor. And once the ball of the foot is to the floor, go ahead and push through your heel. Take a little time here. One more breath. Good, and then let off on that push. You're going to take your leg and you're going to bring it out to the side, just like we did before. You'll press into your right hand, sweep your left arm up towards the ceiling, and then just begin to circle your wrist. And open and close. Wiggle your fingers. And then bring your hand to your hip. Press into your right hand. Twist your chest open just a little bit more. And then circle your chest back to the floor. Sneak your left knee in. And you're going to rise up onto your shins, just like we did before. So you're going to open your arms wide. And this time you'll cross the left arm over the right, letting your hands drape over your shoulders like you're giving yourself a big hug. As you inhale, you're going to come into a little bit of a back bend and reach your elbows towards the sky. And then as you exhale, you're going to either draw your hips back towards your heels, tapping your elbows to your thighs, or you'll do a little curl, but stay pretty upright. So your choice. And we'll just move like this, guided by our own breath a few more times. And the next time you curl down, bring your hands to the floor. Curl yourself forward into a tabletop. And then you're going to walk your hands forward of your shoulders. Tuck your toes under and lift your hips up and back. And once you've lifted your hips up and back, just take a little bit of time playing and moving about. And then looking up towards the front of your mat, begin to walk your hands or your feet forward towards your hands. And once you get there, just take a moment, maybe soften your knees, let your hands hang. And then just roll yourself up, one vertebra at a time, just rising up to a standing position. And then we're just going to roll up and down. Again, turn to face you. I'll turn a little sideways. You're going to roll up and down. So in our cat and our cow, we were opening the front body and opening the back body a little bit when we were doing that hugging thing too. So we're going to do a little bit more of that action. So bringing hands to your thighs this time. You're going to roll the shoulders back. Lean back. Lift your chin up towards the ceiling. And then you're going to sit like you're sitting in a chair. So begin to sit your hips back low. And then just drape your belly over your thighs and round. And then roll up. The legs slowly straighten. And then the chin lifts, shoulders roll back, open up the front of the body. And you're just going to move back and forth like that a few times. So the hips sit back, get pretty low, and just drape over. And then roll right back up. few more times. And then the next time you're hanging down, go ahead and see if you can take your feet a little wider. So you might take them to the edges of your mat. You might take them right off your mat. Maybe you bring a block into the picture and you let your hands rest on the block. And then maybe you bend a little bit. One knee and then the other. And letting your weight and your hips switch side to side. And then come to the center. And this time as we roll up, we're going to take our arms high and wide. Reaching, 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 reaching. And then bring them right in to heart center. And we're going to step our feet together. And we're going to do that a couple more times. So you're going to let your arms come down and sweep out and up, reaching up and looking up. And then exhale and bring your hands right back into heart center. And one more time, hands drop down, circle around and up, look up. And exhale, and draw the hands right into heart center. And while they're there, just go ahead and separate. Take a hand to the heart and hand to the belly. And spread your palms wide. You can spread wide for the soles of your feet. You connect with the rhythm of your heart. Good, and then relax your arms down. And then take your right hand to your shoulder. And you're just going to begin to circle around. Circling around with that elbow. Just warming up and loosening that joint. You feel especially good if you've been hunched over a computer all day. And then take it in the other direction. Good. And then you're going to release that arm down. And we're going to take it in circles. But as we circle, we're going to let the whole body go around with it. So go ahead and circle that arm. And let your whole body, whole torso get into it. And then go in the other direction. And then come mostly upright and mostly still and circle that arm around. So you might get a little bit of movement in the torso or the hips displacing a little bit, but try to keep it much stiller than we just did. And go in the other direction. All right, and we're going to do the other side. So starting with your hand on your elbow and beginning to circle around. And circle around in the other direction. Good, and then letting the arm come down. We're going to make those circles, but big sweep, letting the whole body get involved. Big circles. And the other way. Good, and then try to keep everything pretty still and continue to circle that arm around. And circle in the other direction. Good. And then with both arms down by your side, let's just do a couple shoulder circles. So going backwards. Both at the same time. Squeeze tips of your shoulder blades together. And a couple times forward. All right. So we're going to stand right at the front of our mat. And it might be useful to have some blocks on either side of you. Okay. And so standing right up in between your blocks, we're going to lead in with a half sun salutation. So hands at your heart. Inhale, sweep your arms up. And exhale, bow all the way down. And inhale, straight legs and a flat back. And then bring your hands to the blocks and step your left foot back. Your right foot might inch forward a little bit, but you're coming to a nice deep lunge. Gaze can be forward, shoulders pulling backwards. Take a couple moments here. And then just simply straighten your front leg. Reach your heart forward. Take another moment here. Good, and then rebend into that right knee. The left hand is going to flatten down on a block, and you're going to sweep the right arm up. Take a moment here. One more breath. Good. Lower your hand down. You're going to square off your chest, and then just drop your knee to the floor. You can untuck your back toes, bring your hands to your hips, come upright, and then we're going to sink our hips forward. So sinking your hips forward, bringing that front of the hip in front of your knee, and then reach your arms up. Take a couple breaths. Good, and then reach your hands down to those blocks again. Pull your hips back, and you're gonna rock onto the heel of that right foot. Keep reaching your heart forward. Take a couple more breaths here. One more moment. Good. And then see if you can just take that right foot and slide it back. So you're in your tabletop again. And we'll take a child's pose. So bringing big toes together, knees apart. Just go ahead and bow down. And take a few moments to rest. A few moments to feel. And then come on up to a tabletop. If you've got blocks or you've got a pair of even books, you might want to bring them so that they're shoulders width distance apart and come into a downward facing dog with a little bit of elevation under your hands. So go ahead and give it a try if you've got that. Tuck your toes under and lift yourself up and back. And as you lift yourself up and back, see if you can root into the heels of your palms. And with this extra height under your hands, see if you might bring your chest closer towards your thighs. You can bend your knees a whole bunch. And then just begin to walk yourself forward. And as you walk yourself forward, eventually come into a forward fold. And then pressing feet into the floor. Let your arms sweep high and wide. And then exhale and bring your hands into heart center. Allow the thumbs to tap into the breastbone. And just take a moment to pause. And we'll do the other side. So inhale and sweep the arms up. And exhale and bow your way all the way forward. Inhale to straight legs and a flat back. And then the left foot stays where it is and the right foot's going to step back. And you'll find a lunge. Knee stays off the ground for now. Okay. Come deep into that front knee, lift through the heart. And then straighten your front leg. And keep reaching the heart forward. Take a few breaths. And then bend into that left knee. The right hand can flatten to the floor or block. And that right arm comes towards the ceiling. Good. Eventually lower that hand to the floor. Square up your chest. And the back knee is going to tap down. Good. Come upright. Bring your hands to your hips. Scoot your left foot forward some. And then sink your hips forward. And reach your arms up. Good. Bring your hands back down to frame your foot. Scoot your hips back, flex your front foot, and reach your heart forward. Good, and then just gonna shimmy that foot back. And we're gonna come on down to our belly. So you can move your blocks, your books out of the way. And just come down to your belly. Fold your hands underneath your forehead. Maybe you bend your knees and swing your legs from side to side. And then lower your legs down to the floor. And bring your hands into a cobra position or a position similar like you're going to do a push-up. Only you're going to wrap your elbows in along your rib cage. And with your forehead or with your chin to the floor, see if you can take the heads of your shoulders or the tops of your shoulders and roll them back. Yep. And try to maintain that. So you're cinching or pinching the tips of your shoulder blades together. And then without pushing into your hands, so the hands are just there for guidance or grounding, but you're going to use your back to lift on up. Use the strength of your back muscles. Hold here. Move the head around a little bit to make sure that you're not locking the jaw or the neck. And then lower down and form a pillow for your head. I'm going to do that one more time. The sliding hands into place, wrapping the elbows in, having them glued against the rib cage, and then bring your chin or bring your forehead to the floor. Let your shoulders fall forward. And then exaggerate that action of rolling the shoulders back and squeezing them into the back body. Maintain that. And then without pushing into your hands, you're going to lift up. So it becomes a strengthener for the back. And then again, maybe you roll your head around a little bit to make sure that you're not locking in the neck or the jaw. And then roll down. And we'll push into our hands and bring the hips all the way back for a child's pose. And in your child's pose, just take a few moments. And then climb yourself up. And we're going to swing our legs around. And go ahead and bring your hands behind you. Have your feet nice and wide. So if you've got shorter legs, they might just be at the edges of your mat. If you've got longer legs, maybe they even come off the sides of your mat. And have your hands close enough to you that you're sitting upright, that you're not leaning back or slumping back. And then without moving your feet any closer together as you do this, just gonna roll your legs over to the right and let your head turn to the left. And then come back to the center. And we'll do the other side. So let your legs fall down and over to the left and look over your right shoulder. And come on up. And just go back and forth like that. You can go slowly, you can go quickly, you could pause at any part of it, or just move fluidly from side to side. Good. And then come back to the center. Make sure that your feet are really wide and that your butt's not too far away from your hands. And you're going to let both legs fall down and over to the right, and then sit up so that you can balance yourself. So you can arrange your legs. You want them in this kind of staggered position, so the right foot is right against that left thigh. And then you're going to take both hands to the outside of your right thigh. And you're going to go ahead and walk your hands around till you're maybe facing the back of your mat, maybe not quite there. And you have a couple choices here. So you could stay up. You could use your hands as leverage, bringing you into this kind of juicy twist. You might drop down to your forearms if you can get them to the floor, and try to get them both to the floor. So a lot of times I see folks, in this case, it would be dropping your right forearm to the floor and that left forearm would be up. But all it takes is just leveling off the chest, and you can drop that forearm down. If your forearms don't reach the floor, you could use a block underneath your forearms. And again, you would want them both down on the block rather than one down. Give it a try. And one thing you might notice if you're in this shape is that breathing could be a little bit difficult. There's a lot of squeeze and pressure on the belly, on the diaphragm. And see if you can soften against that resistance and find your breath. And then come on up to your palms. And we're going to swing around to the front. And open your feet wide. And then let's go ahead and swivel and drop both knees over to the left. And then take both hands and walk them around the outside of the left thigh, outside of the left hip. Maybe the hands press into the floor and give you that juicy twisting quality. Or maybe you decide to make the pose a little bit more restorative in nature. So coming down, maybe forearms coming to the floor. Maybe you grab a block and you use that as a platform. But again, advising or suggesting that you work on dropping that right half of your chest towards the floor so that you can get that forearm on the floor block as well. And then again, if you feel like you're having trouble breathing, see if you can soften. Find your breath. Another couple moments. And then press into your palms if you're not already on them. And you're gonna spin around to the front of your mat. And you're gonna roll onto your back, just easing yourself down and squeezing your knees in towards your belly. And then lowering your feet to the floor. And then go ahead and take your feet towards the edges of your mat. And you're going to turn your toes in towards each other. Walk your heels out a little bit and then bring your thighs and knees to rest against one another. And then reach your arms straight up towards the ceiling. And you're going to cross your arms and give yourself a big hug. So similar to what we did towards the beginning of class when we were rising up and down and curling on our knees or our shins. But this time, in this different orientation to gravity, I'm feeling the arm bones heavily dropping to the floor and creating space and opening in the back. And then with an inhale, open your arms wide. And then as you exhale, cross them again. But have the opposite arm in front, opposite arm close to your face. And again, see if you can allow gravity to do the work here. Weight of the arm bones, yielding to gravity, dropping downwards and creating space in the upper back. And then go ahead and either release your arms by your side or bring them to rest on your belly. You keep your legs in this position. You might rotate your knees towards the ceiling, or you might stretch your legs long. So I'm going to come to a few moments of stillness on our back. And just resting and just giving the body the chance to kind of incorporate and make sense of everything that we've been doing over the course of the last hour. So coming into what's called Shavasana. If lying on your back is hard for you, you can always choose instead to come upright, sitting in a cross-legged position or whatever position works for you, and take a few minutes of seated meditation. So continuing to lie on your back or coming upright. And we'll just take a few minutes. And if you find that your mind starts to wander now that we're done moving and you're done having to pay attention to everything involved in that, see if you can really concentrate on your breath. Feeling its movement and passage way in and out of the body. Drawing the breath in through the nose, feeling that little tickle, maybe a little coolness in the throat. And then as you exhale, maybe part the lips, maybe there's a little sigh. And if you're still on your back, just begin to weave in a little bit of movement. You might roll your head from side to side, or reach your arms to the floor behind you. You might open up your mouth and let a sigh or yawn. And then eventually the knees will bend. And you can draw them in towards your belly, hugging them close. And then roll yourself off to either side and guide yourself up to a seat. And then once you've done that, once you've come upright, just arrange yourself in a way that feels comfortable. Hands can rest at your lap. Taking a few more moments here and savoring how you feel. Noticing what's shifted in the body, as well as the heart, as well as the mind. And then draw your palms together right at the center of your heart, sealing in your practice. And we'll just simply end with a deep bow of gratitude and appreciation to Thunder Mist and one another and everything that our yoga practice can offer us. Thank you so much for joining me. And these videos are available for you to watch over and over again as many times as you'd like on the Thunder Mist yoga page or Thunderwell page, their fitness page, and also through their YouTube channel. And if you want to catch these classes live, again, they're the second and the fourth Wednesday of every month. Thank you.